on behalf of the Institute for Leadership and Strategic Foresight. Welcome to So You Want to Be the Chief, a podcast for leaders.
I am so blessed again to have one of my favorite people on the show. You're getting old when your past warriors' sons are now captains, having graduated from the Air Force Academy. And that's the case. I've got Captain Pierce Reisinger with me, whose dad, if I remember, Captain, I hired your dad into the Air Force Band and would have been the 90s, maybe, I don't know, at Barksdale. And then he did some his time. Not like prison or anything, but he went on and has been doing some good stuff. He got out after a few years, and I remember him calling me and saying, "Chief, my son wants to go to Air Force Academy." I said, 15,000 other kids want to come to the Air Force Academy. So, but we worked it out. And you got here. I remember seeing you out at Jacks Valley at basic cadet training, all muddied up and everything, crying because your daddy wasn't there, no, or your mommy or someone wasn't there. But I was there, and we got you through those 4 years, and you graduated, and we'll get to talking more about that a little bit more. But Captain Pierce Reisinger, good to have you on the show, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chief. And yeah, I think it was back in like early 90s that my dad would have been that little sax player airman that you got to come onto the band. And he definitely would tell me stories about, I think when my older sister Ashley was born, you were there. And then when I figured I wanted to go to the Air Force Academy, he's like, "Oh, I think I know someone. Let me see if I can like find him." It's like, yeah, let me get you in touch with Chief. And I remember going to visit the academy, and you talked to me for like 15, 20 minutes, this little wide-eyed, like
Yeah,
16-year-old. It's like, "Why do you want to join the Air Force?" So,
yeah. Well, that was a good day because I accomplished what I was set to accomplish, and that's to recruit you. I didn't make any money off of that one, but yeah, whatever. You got there, and well, let's go back now. Let me for those who are subscribers and listen to the show regularly, we used to call them fans. I've got the captain on because young officers have a perspective of what chiefs should be like, and I thought, who could share that? Because someone that I know knows the enlisted corps because he lived in it, and someone who would now have a little bit of experience. What class did you graduate from?
it was 21. Yeah,
21. So 4 years, 4 or 5 years, something
just over
like that.
4 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've seen some chiefs, and we hung out for a little bit for 4 years. But anyway, that's why I asked you to be on the show because you have a perspective probably similar to all captains, young captains, and I wanted to get that because I think we forget that although the chiefs really are leaders of the enlisted corps, we also work with and like hope, guide, and help officers and you know uh, that sort of thing. But anyway, now first of all, where are you from originally? What do you call home? I know you were kind of a brat, but
Yeah.
your parents finally moved to Texas, was it?
So yeah, my dad for most of my life was down in Texas. I mostly grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas, right up by all those C-130s up there. But yeah, now my dad's moved up to Michigan, so he's just about starting to enjoy retired life up there with some golf and stuff. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Okay, good. And you came to the Air Force Academy right out of high school, if I remember, right?
yes, Chief. Yeah.
Okay, because now the reason I asked that is because, as you know, others may not know. Sometimes y'all go to schools, prep schools. Sometimes y'all go to the prep school, the Air Force Academy prep school, and then come to the Air Force Academy. But I think, gosh, I'm going to say that 90% of you all come right out of high school. So not much experience. Your first time away, I suppose.
Just about. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, one day you're sitting like going to high school, like doing what most kids do, and then the next year sitting on a bus getting yelled at by a bunch of other, 20 something year olds with berets on, going like, "Oh man, what have I done?" So,
Yeah. Well, let me correct you, Captain. We don't yell at people. We
yeah,
encourage them.
we correct. Yeah.
Yeah, very loudly, but we encourage them. Yeah. It hasn't changed much.
Yeah.
Uh, so, high school, academy, graduate, and then what did you do for the last 4 years?
So first spot I had was out to Kunsan in South Korea. Did a short tour there, and I commissioned as an aircraft maintenance officer. So when I was there, I did a couple of things: fabrication flight in the back shop maintenance squadron, which is a lot of like the metals tech, and like other fab folks back there. Then I went on to do maintenance operations, which was more of the QA, scheduling, and some of those other functions in like a maintenance group. And keep in mind, Eric Kunsan, that's a bunch of F-16s.
Wow.
And then after Korea, ended up in Aviano over in Italy, where I got to do some more F-16 maintenance. I ended up doing one deployment while I was out there. And now I'm out here in San Antonio doing a bit of career broadening with some acquisitions for Air Force software.
Okay. Very good. That sounds like a little bit of fun. At least you're not deploying a lot or running around all over the place. And fairly recently married, right?
Correct. Yeah, we're just coming up on 3 years now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Which means you should be getting ready to have a kid anytime soon. And I don't know that you remember, my good captain, but you promised me that you would name your firstborn after me. Bobby Reisinger. Man, what a great name. But what if it's a girl, Chief? Bobbie, man. And you can call him or her Chief. So I have proof here now online
On
that
record.
he's on record. Exactly.
Yeah.
So good luck with that. And I'm sure the parents are all the parents are saying, hey, what are you guys waiting for?
Yeah, for any of my family might be watching, don't get too excited. Yeah.
Well, you never know. There may be an announcement at the end of the show. You never know. So having a little bit of did you get to work with now? Forgive me because I got all these thoughts running around in my brain. So what you did is what we often call back shop work. Y'all did the structure work, the stuff that fixing, maintaining the airplanes so that the pilots can get in them, jump in and go do whatever they're gonna do. And those are I always loved the back shops. I think I may have told you before you graduated. Age warriors are special to me because those guys will do anything. And I also, if I told you that, Captain, I told you don't ask them how they did it because you have UCMJ authority and you may not want to know how they did it. It just showed up on your desk, Captain.
Yeah, love my DIN-STAR guys. Yeah, there are some of those times where like LT, you don't need to know. I'm like, all right, trust you.
Yeah,
Check out fix. No one's hurt.
yeah, that's right. Now, did you work with some chiefs?
Yeah, definitely several like throughout my time. I mean, first I remember my first chief, Chief Haney from 8th MXS over at Kunsan, and then coming to Italy. It was Chief Klask over at the Triple Nickel, and then my last little bit of time at Aviano, I was up at the group, and that was Chief Dan Lopez. Yeah, so
Very
more
good.
than that, but those were the guys I kind of got to directly work with.
Yeah. No, and when I talk to enlisted people, regardless of rank, but especially the new chiefs, I always tell them, take those lieutenants under your wing. They don't know nothing. I mean, no kidding. One day you graduate from the United States Air Force Academy, 3 months, what is it? 60 days later, you show up to your assignment and you're in charge. So
Yeah.
you don't know nothing. And that's not to be disrespectful. That's just the truth. You don't know nothing. And if a good officer or someone who has the potential to be a great leader will listen to the chiefs, to the senior enlisted people who have been around, 20 years, 25 years, I can't even imagine how tough it would be to try to lead me because 50 years, yeah, sure, LT. Yeah.
I don't know. I can only speak for the academy at least, but one thing I will say for all senior NCOs and especially the chiefs there, it is ingrained into us for just that 4 years, but especially towards the end as we're kind of getting closer to jump out of the nest and go out to the real Air Force. They tell you, listen to your senior NCOs, latch onto a good senior NCO. They will steer you right. So especially for like me, I showed up to like my first flight of 80 people in Korea, and I meet my senior master sergeant for the first time. Like that man's word went straight to my brain, like for the whole time that I was there, especially as like a brand new lieutenant. So a lot of those guys have an incredible amount of influence on these young officers, especially new commissions that are coming to like their first units. A lot of influence that they've got with those guys.
Now, do you discuss this amongst yourselves, Kevin? I mean, do you tell each other, hey, we really do need, because we told you there were plenty of things that we told you during your academy days that some of them said, yeah, I've heard it so many times, I don't care. And none of it really, or a lot of it doesn't apply till you get to base X. But at the base X, do you guys sit around? No, Do you have that discussion? Man, listen to your chief. And this is from peers, not from, other chiefs or other enlisted people, but captain to captain, lieutenant to lieutenant. Do you have those discussions about, hey, man, we need to listen to our senior leader, our senior enlisted leaders?
Yeah. I'd say like, so at least in maintenance specifically, like, sorry, you're gonna have to excuse me for like doing a little bit of rambling, Chief. But at least within maintenance, right? It's a very heavily enlisted field. Like I'd say for a maintenance group of 1,600 people, you have maybe 15, 20 officers. So there's an inherent need to listen to those guys because they are 99% of who you are working with on a day-to-day basis. Those are the guys that are getting the jobs done. So if you're not listening to them, you're doing something wrong, at least in that career field. And I'd like to think that applies to others too. I mean, I haven't had as deep of conversations about that with people that are, and say like the weather or intel career field, but at least for maintenance, that's very strongly true.
Yeah, yeah. Now, were most or all of your interactions with those enlisted people good ones? Did you feel like they were trying to help you? Again, that's what I tell them whenever I talk to them. I said, help them. They don't know any more than what they know, and it's always incumbent up, And uh, if it happens, Captain, you heard it here first. One day you could be the chief of staff of the United States Air Force, and that would be so cool because I got it on video. But I probably won't be around. But anyway, have you felt that the enlisted people are supporting you to help you become a better officer?
I'd say, Chief, like 99 times out of 100, yes. I mean, obviously, like the quality varies between different people because, like, to be frank, like, yes, it's part of like especially senior NCO's charge to help develop and mentor, CGOs. But I mean, a lot of times, you have like your staff sergeant, like, frontline supervisor who's trying to get the job done and he's, cranking and super busy. He's not always going to have the time to give you this like qualitative or like high quality, like, hey, LT, this is where I think you could do better.
Mm-hmm.
But it's never, I've never had bad interactions with enlisted folks. At least no one's out to get you. If I can speak to some of my CGOs, none of your enlisted folks are out to get you. If you do right by them, they will do right by you.
Yeah,
that's probably the final word on that I would say.
Yeah, well, that's good. So generally, Captain, what do you think a good chief does to help CGO?
Yeah. So like I remember when we talked about initially, like hopping on the podcast and talking about this, I really thought back to some of the chiefs that I've interacted with in like my relatively short time and kind of like how they impacted me and, what kind of were the common strings between those guys. I think it kind of boils down to three things, at least it did for me. First, like your chief has got to have confidence. You've got to have a confident chief because I've seen a couple of those where it's kind of like a guy who's retired on active duty or it's just an empty uniform and, it's pretty glaringly obvious. But when you have those chiefs that are confident and like are there to help steer the organization, it's very apparent. And it gives, I'd say, a lot of comfort to not just like all the enlisted airmen, but to your young CGOs as well, because you kind of identify that person as like, I can go to them. They are a leader. They will take what I have to say and potentially impact change because of it. Then these guys, they've got to have empathy. I'd say empathy is another big one. Because in any kind of organization where, you've got your triad in your traditional squadron of, your commander, your chief, and your shirt, I think each one of those guys, not just, the shirt of the commander, they've got to be able to empathize with and care for the airmen that are in their units. Because I've definitely had at least one of those chiefs who it was about themselves. And it was pretty clear that they were about themselves, like in their time in that unit, and kind of eroded a lot of the trust but not just like some of the CGOs in the unit had, like in the unit, but especially in that person. But yeah, and then I'd say humility too, because again, like I love all the chiefs, love the E9s. Like they've gotten to the pinnacle, like they are clearly good at what they do. But I'd say sometimes some kind of forget where they came from or forget like to, have that perspective with some of the guys that are in their unit. Because yes, you guys are like very good at what you do. You're at the top of your fields in that sense. But when you have someone who's pretty cocksure and I won't say like quite arrogant, but when they when I've had some of those guys that are a little arrogant, like again, it just erodes that trust that your people have in you, or even their willingness to come and speak to you about not just things that are going on with themselves, but in the unit. But kind of like tying all that back to like CGOs, I, these chiefs, like especially chiefs, have, I would say, like an enormous amount of influence with CGOs in their units, not just in their units. I'd say if you grab any captain or any lieutenant, like out of a squadron or off the street, and you ask them, it's like, hey, this chief is talking to you. You're going to listen to what he has to say. Like, all, like automatic, like, yes, I'm going to listen to what they have to say. Because typically these guys, they have decades of experience under their belts, and there's clearly a lot of wisdom there that you can get value from. But where I'd say like that they can be the most helpful to lieutenants is taking some of that wisdom that they have and just being blunt with a lot of their new CGOs. Because I feel like that's another thing that's unique to chiefs too. Because sure, you'll have like NCOs, like staffs or techs that probably have just as good wisdom or knowledge or even feedback that they could give to their CGOs. But a lot of times those guys aren't necessarily willing to do that because that's an officer. I'm an enlisted man. I'm not sure that that's really my place. As opposed to the chief, I don't think I've met a single chief in my time that was afraid to tell me what was up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be odd.
Yeah.
So, well, in what it takes, Captain, as you know, is trust. The on both sides that I trust you, sir, and I know, sir, that you trust me. And and I actually I'm working on a book called Building Trust, but it's in my book, Air Power. How do you build trust? What are the things that we do to be trustworthy? And again, that's a two-way street. You can't just do it one way or the other, and it has nothing to do with rank, really. I mean, I guess the rank there is some. There always should be respect for rank, but we always, the enlisted people always say, I may not respect or I may not like the boss, but I respect his rank or her rank, and that's fair. But I think if we can get to the point where we respect each other mutually and even like each other, I think life is going to be better. And again, sir, the old stigma of ring knockers. People who graduate from the academy and go in to the squadron and say, "Hey, I'm the boss because I graduated." Well, we don't give a crap about that. We don't care where you went or anything. You got butter bars, and we're going to do the job. And that's not going to work very well. I worked with a jerk that was the worst in that way, and he got thrown out eventually because it was just ridiculous what he was expecting. But that trust again is mutual, and we whether you're a leader or a follower, it goes to being trustworthy. I do these seminars. I'm still doing seminars, and I do one on building trust. And a lot of times, when I ask people to define or describe trust, the definitions or what they describe is when someone does this. Okay, but really, it's when I do this. When I live up to, and there's 12 things that we talk about. When I do those things, then I'm trustworthy, and it doesn't matter who it is, up, down, sideways, then people will trust me because I live up to those things. And it really is, we give you youngsters a hard time because this is the generation of it's all about me. Well, it is all about me. I have to do my part to make this thing work. And if I don't, then it's not going to work. So, it's come on, what do they call it? A double-edged sword. But nonetheless, we got to work together to get the job done. And especially now, I'm not going to say especially, but there are many, I guess, really all the jobs that we do in the military, but the maintenance guys, cops as well. You got to trust each other. You have to. There is no choice. If you don't, it's over.
Yeah. And yet the trust piece, like it specifically like strikes a memory for me just at my last job. My last group commander, Colonel Joe Stengel, he used to have like a big talk that he would always kind of give on trust specifically. And he said that when he was hiring or at least conducting interviews for his replacement to come in after he left, one of the first questions or the first question he asked them was like, you walk into a room of, people, do you trust them? And like I thought about how I would answer that question. I was like, well, what does that mean? Like, I don't know, like, do I know these people? Like, do I have backgrounds on any of them? And he kind of goes on to explain that, like, in his job, at least as a maintenance group commander, when he walks into a room and he's got, his production superintendent, senior NCOs, his squadron commanders, he trusts them implicitly. Because when all of us put on the uniform, when all of us take, the oath, whatever version that might be, we're all here to do a job. And I think there is at least a baseline level of trust that all of us should at least have in each other until we're proven wrong. So when you have, kind of our brothers and sisters in arms, in our uniforms, unless they prove you otherwise, I think everyone is here. Everyone wants to do the job well. Everyone wants to serve their country. So there is a certain level of trust, I'd say, that like should be inherent to people that are either coming into the new units, even if you don't know that person.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right, Captain. There is at least, and it's not a minimum, but there is a certain amount of trust that we all have. It's implicit in our profession. But then there are people who you trust a lot more, and situations. A lot of it is situational. Can you trust that young man to fix that airplane? Well, only if he's got the experience and the knowledge and the tools and all of that. Those are more specific things. So if they don't, then you can't trust them because they don't know have it or they don't have it. So
Yeah. Yeah, if I've got, Staff Sergeant X who's telling me like, yes, I did this job by doing this, this, and this. We have the parts for it. We're good to go. I'm confident this fix is a good fix. I would brief that, going up. And if I didn't trust, my NCOs and like my airmen, specifically in the maintenance community, and I had to verify or double check every time I was told something, I think nothing would ever get done because I would spend all of my time
right.
trying to just check work when like that's not really feasible, especially when you have like a high paced like environment where things just have to get done. I will say there have been some of those times where like I got burned a little bit for, like not verifying those things, but I'd say that's way less common than what was told to me was true,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I asked you, and you had good answers for what good things a good leader does. What does a bad chief do? What things would you say, Chief? Don't ever do this. And sometimes you mentioned that it's a an enlisted guy may be afraid to tell the boss, even if it's I'll say only a young lieutenant that hasn't been around very much. But man,
Yeah.
he's a lieutenant. He's the commander or the flight chief or whatever. But uh, be honest, what bad thing does a bad chief do that you would say, hey, chiefs, don't do this to
Yeah.
us, especially as officers, don't do this to us. Like, okay, so while you're thinking, here's one thing that a lot of you do. When I salute you, sir, don't thank me. It's in the book. It's in. I know you've read it. I know because I've given you my book. Don't thank me. We salute each other because it's a courtesy. It's a thing that warriors do. Officers, don't thank me. I've had colonels. Thank you, chief. No, sir, don't thank me. This is what I do. You're making me feel stupid that
Yeah.
you're thanking me. No, you don't have to thank me. This is the brotherhood, if you will. So anyway, what bad thing what does a chief do that he shouldn't or she shouldn't do?
Yeah. I think flying off the handle. I don't know if it's just been my own bias with like how I viewed my chiefs that I've had in the past, but I'd say like because of their position, I feel like obviously a lot of people look to them. So if any kind of change comes down, if we get any kind of news, if you have a chief that is going to like get visibly upset or just blow up on people or just get very like sullen, it's pretty like apparent pretty quickly to a lot of people in that unit, and people are going to emulate that. People are going to imitate that, especially in that position of leadership that you have. So I'd say if you are a chief or, especially about to be a new SCL in a unit, have a cool head, because if you start losing it in the middle of the workday, everyone's going to know, and everyone's going to assume something is wrong and that they should also be reacting in this exaggerated way that you're doing. But like God bless his soul, my last chief, Chief Lopez, like he was the master of that. Like uh, anytime anything would come down, he just had like the most placid expression, placid, like bearing of a brick wall type of guy. So like even if we're getting, I'd say, bad news, if you looked at him, so he seemed like he was doing all right. He was normal. Like, all right, it's probably not that bad, you know. But yeah, I'd say that's like the first thing that sticks out to me. Another one, and this kind of like a second one that I've seen a lot, not specifically with chiefs, but with just people in leadership positions in general, don't have favorites. I'd say that undermines so much motivation and trust that people have in you as a leader in an organization. If they identify that you've got your, handful group of people that you just really like to spread the love to and not anybody else, it's gonna what's a good word for that? It's gonna eliminate any motivation that other people have, either like do well or exceed, because they feel like you're not gonna recognize them for it anyways. Yeah. That's definitely a big no-no that I've seen.
So I stand corrected, Captain, that the maintenance guys and the cops are not my favorites. You're all my favorites. You know that. But at the academy, you know that my 4 degrees had a special place in my heart. But so did the 3 degrees and the 2 degrees and the firsties. And eventually, you're all my brothers and sisters. So what's your plan? You staying in for 30, 20? What do you think?
I don't know. Right now, both Ryan, my wife, and I, like, we're both active duty at this point down here in Lackland. So I'd say as long as we keep loving what we're doing, and as long as they can keep us together for the most part, I'd say we're going to stay.
And that's a tough one, Kevin. You know that I think at least my experience has been that we try really hard to keep you all together, or as close, like you say, as close as possible. But sometimes it's just not possible, and that sucks. I've been in situations where I've had to tell people, "Hey, it's not going to work," and sorry, but we just can't. We have a mission to accomplish, and we can't do it with both of you being at the same place. So sometimes you do get separated. But when those things happen, I hope that it'll be good enough. That you can work it out, because it's a good place to be. I guess you figured that right after. If I've been around 50 years, so you figured out that this is not a bad place for me.
Yeah. I mean, the first year for us, like that, me and Korea, she was still at the academy at that point. So I think we're familiar with it, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. And we take it a day at a time. So just don't forget that the first one is named after me, Kevin. Okay? Because I know where you're at, man. I don't know that you know, but we put a little bug in your earlobe at the academy when you were sleeping one night, and I can find you, man, because I still have the app. I made sure I kept it.
This was one of those words of wisdom from Chief emails that I read in a half stupor at 3 a.m. studying for a test. I was like, "You will name your first son after me." I got brainwashed. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, that was not only on the screen, but subliminally, easy for me to say.
Yeah.
Captain Piers Reisinger.
Or I was going to say, for anyone watching that doesn't know, Chief would always send out his words of wisdom emails that you knew that if you're a cadet at the academy and you see this email, you've stayed up too late. You got to go to bed.
That's right. And typically, Piers, I would get a response from someone almost every time saying good morning, and I'd ask, so why are you up so early? And your answers would be, I'm still up working on that paper. Yeah, okay, when is it due? This morning. When did you know? No response. No one wanted to acknowledge that they screwed up and waited till the last minute to do it. But if you wait till the last minute, it only takes a minute, right? I think that was your thinking. So Kevin, thank you so much, man. I cannot tell you how proud I am of you. And I remember that call from your dad, and I remember your dad. He's a good man. I'm glad that you're with us, and I hope that you stay with us. Well, and I hope that you do what you should for you and your family. That's the most important thing. You've already given us the time that you said you would give us, but you've got a lot to give, and I hope that you stay around a little bit longer. But you be safe. I know you're going to take care of your troops. I know, because if you don't, like I said, I will find out. You know that what's his name, Liam Neeson? Yeah. I will find you and I will kill you. So be aware of that. But thank you so much for being on the show, and especially for being you. All of the success that you own I take credit for. Whenever someone says, "Is that Rising Group guy yours?" Yeah, that's my guy. So thank
Chief,
you for making me popular.
yeah, Chief, I know, like, yeah, the letter that you wrote for me, the recommendation I got from you, and all the like mentorship you got to me, especially my 4 dig year. I don't think I would have made it. So thank you. Yeah.
We're all a brotherhood, brother. You take care of yourself, take care of your bride and the troops, and God bless you.
God bless, Chief.
Thank you for listening. We hope that you've gained something from this episode that will empower you to become a more effective leader. If you'd like to connect with us, please do so via our website at leadershipandforesight.org. The book So You Want to Be the Chief is available on Amazon.com and on Apple Books. This podcast is powered by the Institute for Leadership and Strategic Foresight.